Tone production is probably the most important thing that you can develop on the instrument. You can play auditions, you can play for competitions, you can play in a number of different settings where people will be judging you, quote unquote. And if you have a fantastic tone, you can get away with murder. If somebody has a problem with some stylistic thing that you're doing, a way you're playing eighth notes, your tempo, your volume, and you don't have good sound, they are far more apt to start criticizing openly. But if you aren't necessarily following those elements of what they think should be happening, but you've got a great sound, it's human nature to simply say, well, it wasn't quite what I was, but what a sound. That's the most important thing you can develop. As far as I'm concerned, trumpet players ultimately shouldn't really listen to other trumpet players in terms of getting to the next step. You have to listen to trumpet players initially. I like to call it the circle of trumpet life, where at day one, the top of the circle, you're just trying to make a sound and you're happy if anything comes out. And then somewhere right at the bottom of the circle, I call this Trumpet Purgatory. And this is where we spend most of our time for most of our careers talking about mouthpieces and lead pipes and recordings and who's doing this and who's doing that. All the things we love to talk about as trumpet players, but that ultimately don't really mean anything. But you have to go through purgatory in order to get out and try to get back to the top of that circle. The place of pure innocence where you're just presenting something that's important to you. And the beautiful part about such a simple analogy is that you can never get back to that first pure moment. You're always striving for it. You get close. Now, one of the ways to do that is by not only listening to trumpet players and trumpet recordings and going to concerts, but more importantly, as my teacher at Juilliard said, you can't just listen to that. You sound like a meathead. You got to listen to some singers. You got to listen to some violinists, some, woodwind quintets. You sound like a meathead. You play like a meathead. You want to be a meathead? Listen to trumpet players. That's just part of the process. And it was absolutely right. So developing tone has to do with developing a really vivid imagination. And once you have that, boy, the sky's the limit.